If you only had a very short time to live, if a credible medical authority said you would die very soon, you'd live differently because you knew you were dying. Death would be so close you could not avoid its presence. So what if you knew for a fact you had only weeks, not years, then only days, then only hours, then minutes, then gone forever? Life as you've known it would be completely and irrevocably gone. If you knew, you'd live differently. But why? Why would you live differently? Because the way you live depends on your view of things, and a death sentence would be an unequivocal, unmitigated, transcendent reframe. The fact is, you don't know when you will die, and so you, like the rest of us, live as if you've got plenty of time. By not thinking about our own impending death, we get to avoid the horror, but we also miss out on something really good. People who have been given a terminal diagnosis say that knowing we have only months before we die tends to wake us up out of our stupor. We are, in a sense, drugged by petty dramas, rendered semi-conscious of our own life. Almost every complaint we normally have seems petty compared to death. Car troubles, money troubles, arguments over the everyday ache of broken hearts, broken homes, broken dreams. We would gladly have them rather than death. Pondering our own death makes us sit up and take notice of what's really and truly the most dear. And people who have faced death often say it was a gift to, as the song says, live like you were dying. People who face death talk sweeter and give forgiveness they've been denying. People who face death begin to really live, really care, really love. The bucket list of things you want to do before you die becomes doable. The closeness of death helps us find the time to claim them. We call old friends, we go hang gliding, we take the trip and watch the island sunset together, we finish important tasks, write our great works, paint what we see in our hearts. We don't waste our remaining precious hours in the mundane or trivial or unnecessarily negative stuff. We brush aside all the clutter of the low quality to make more room for the truly important. Would you bother with the things that normally bother you if it meant less time with those you love? You'd give up battling the wrong, and you'd only want to make more right. You'd stop complaining about your loved one's faults and would only want to show your appreciation and gratitude. Impending death reliably brings words of love. An awareness of death heightens your motivation to go on adventures, to do great works, take long, sweet, deep breaths of air. Death separates chaff from grain, the unimportant from the dear. Death wakes us up and says, live while you can. So a palpable awareness of the inevitability of death brings the sweetest life. Wouldn't you like to have that kind of aliveness without having to die soon? What prevents it? The fear of death is one thing that prevents it. We don't want to think about death because it's a horrible thought. When we die, we leave the people we love. That's one of the greatest horrors of death. We lose the ones we love. But if you can face up to the bad part, you get the rewards of the good part. So confront it, be with it, feel it, because here's the thing, death approaches. Death always approaches. Now, while your death seems years away, you sort of pretend it doesn't exist. But even if it is years away, it is still there waiting for you at the end of the track, and every day it's closer. And without a doubt, the moment will come when death is so close, you have no choice but to face it. I say, better sooner than later. Better to live fully between now and death, rather than live fully in the few seconds between the realization of imminent death and death itself. But to do that, you have to face the horror. People want to avoid thinking about death, but death comes no matter what you do. And since it brings an increased ability to live, it makes good sense to dwell on it. Live like you were dying. This is a great motto. Live, death approaches. An awareness of death gives you the motivation to do what you've always wanted to do. It gives you courage. Facing death empowers us and heightens our senses. The horror of the separation of the ultimate end creates great joy at being alive. It's the ultimate comparison reframe. It puts us in touch with the rapture of embracing the people we love. So don't avoid thoughts of death, but rather remind yourself your death is guaranteed. Feel it. Feel the inevitability of it. Feel the horror of it. And then open your eyes and realize you are now alive. Live. Death approaches. It's not morbid to stay aware of your inevitable death. It's magical. The sooner you become aware of death, the sooner you get to turn up the volume on life. Death counsels life. Connected to death, we gain the power to really live. The end. This has been an excerpt from the book, How to Change the Way You Look at Things in Plain English. This is Adam Lee Kahn on The Atom Bomb. This Atom Bomb podcast episode is sponsored by Anchor, a podcast platform, the one I'm using to make this podcast. It's super easy to use and allows you to easily create your own podcast. You can record and edit your audio right onto the app. In fact, you can do everything on your phone. Anchor also makes it easy to monetize your podcast and get wide distribution. Anchor automatically makes your podcast available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. You can download the Anchor app for free or go to anchor.fm to get started.